I have a 11-year-old son who has decided that math is really not necessary at all, and neither is grammar or writing. He's good with reading, and that's about it. And so I didn't realize this year we didn't hear anything from the 5th grade teacher. We were thinking things are doing good. Usually the first four weeks in school, we've already heard from the teacher. And this year we made it 4 months or 3 months. I'm thinking, great. But until I got his report card about a month ago, and he's not even at grade level for math or for grammar. So I'm like, another year that I'm going to be teaching him at home to try and learn this. So I'm wondering, how do I take what I've learned here? I see him as this beautiful child of Abraham, yet I need him to learn math and grammar somehow, and I'm trying to figure out how to make it fun, how to make it so that he understands why he should learn it.
Well, let's talk about this from the fundamentals that we were just describing just now. So, what is the reason? Let's accept at face value that there is a standard, because there is in the educational system. There's a standard that, what did you call it? Grade level?
Grade level that he has to hit.
There's a standard that has been, through experience, established that he is expected, sort of parameters. And he is choosing not to jump through those hoops.
Right.
We want to ask you if that's a good thing or a bad thing, given what you've been hearing and feeling here today. In other words, we just had a sort of breakthrough with a teacher of teachers who understands that soothing trumps everything and that alignment trumps everything. So where does grade level or what's the word? We can't even find the word. What's the word that he's not?
Grade level standards.
Where does grade level standards fit in the relationship with alignment trumps everything?
It doesn't fit.
It's not even on the same chart, is it?
Right.
And so, but we understand your dilemma.
Right.
You are living in a society and going to school in a system that says that these are. So what happens? What happens to those who aren't compliant enough to make that mark? What happens to them?
And they get held back a grade.
They get held back a grade. And what happens if they still don't make the mark? Then what happens?
That's a really good question, because what if you continually get held back a grade?
What happens if you refuse to do math the ridiculous way and instead you use your calculator or your computer?
Well, that would be wonderful if they would let him in 5th grade use his calculator.
Well, your school is just not up to our standards.
Obviously not. Now, I know that in 6th grade they can use those.
Archaic system.
I know.
Are you insisting that? So you say he reads. He reads.
Obsessive amounts. In fact, that's all he wants to do in school.
And
read.
Are there words in those books?
Yes, that he knows how to read and also say to you.
So they are words. He is reading language.
Yes.
And yet he is reported to not be good at language.
He doesn't know how to write very well and doesn't care. Not that he doesn't know. He doesn't care about using a period and a capital letter in the beginning of the sentence. Seriously.
Well, they don't. You don't use them when you talk either, period.
I know.
And we have noticed, comma, that when you speak appropriately, comma, that the punctuation is usually silent, period,
I know.
exclamation
That's
mark,
what he's
question
telling
mark.
me. That's what he's telling me, too.
So he's taking a sort of practical approach to life.
He certainly is.
And what he's saying is, I am a non-conformist.
Yes.
And so your question to us is, Abraham, I have this bright, beautiful, brilliant son who is inspired from within, and I'd like to squelch that.
No.
I would like to wedge him into the parameters of a backward, archaic educational system who in no way teaches inspiration.
Right.
Well, we're just yanking on your chain a little bit with all of that too. But so, well, how do you feel about that? In other words, what if you feel that way, convey that to him. Convey that to him. Say, comma.
Capital Y,
I hardly ever punctuate when I talk. Say to him.
Yes, I should do it.
And
I will.
You don't either. Question mark?
Yes.
And I've been wondering why, question mark. Just play with him a little bit about that.
Okay.
Is punctuation unnecessary when you speak, so you think it's unnecessary when you write?
Mm-hmm.
Is punctuation implied? We think punctuation is implied, don't you? When you read a sentence that says, do you like this? If the question mark isn't there at the end, do you really not know that it was a question?
Right.
Now, we understand that you're wanting to conform, but the question that he is challenging, and he's been born with a whole generation of dyslexic children who also do not want to conform, because conforming is yesterday. And these are all children who are moving forward. So now you have a dilemma, because in order for you have a lot of teachers to teach a lot of things if your child is to have a smooth ride in an environment like that. But you could understand your child, and you could resonate with your child, and you could express that you understand where he's coming from, and you could let him know that you have felt that way too, but that you've discovered that the path of least resistance is to not ruffle the feathers of the ignorant.
That would be great. Okay.
We can find a better word.
Yes, I think a better word might work.
Of those who mean well.
Yes. His teachers.
Of those who mean well.
Right.
Of those who mean well. That this is her job, and in order for her to do her job, she has these standards that she is required to ask of you. And even though they're really not so necessary out there in the real world, you're so smart, say to him, you could knock this off so easily and just make her life easier and without giving up one bit of your freedom. Because you're only in bondage if they've got one over on you that you don't know they've got one over on you. But you know who's in charge here. You are. In other words, they're not going to hold you back forever, but they're going to make your life miserable. That's not the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is not staying here another year and not doing this again. That's not the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is just knocking this off, and you can do it. You're an avid reader. You love to read. I know that you get all of this. I know that it is within you. And I even understand why you are resistant to giving in to it. I get that too. But it'll be easier for you if you'll just go along with it. There's lots of fun for you to have. When we say to you, do not worry about us, we'll wedge our message in the crack, we really mean that. We really mean that. In other words, we do know what you want to talk about, and we do know the path of least resistance for the most understanding to come out of a collective conversation like this one. We do know that. But there is so much opportunity for us to express to you in the framework of that which you give us what we know you want to know, which is what we want to give you, you see. We know the questions that you've not even formulated in words. And so does the source within your son, you see. So nothing's gone wrong here. Just don't let yourself get all wobbly over it.
And that's how I think I've been kind of wobbly over it. Like, he wants to go to college. I know this. I got to get him to learn math so he can go to college because that's what he wants. And so maybe if I just stay unwobbly and deliver that message.
So let's say it wobble-free.
Right.
Rather than say he wants to go to college, which wobbles.
Right.
Because maybe he's conforming enough and maybe he isn't. He is an avid learner. Now that doesn't wobble. Knowledge always comes easily to him. There's no wobble in that. He is really a pioneer. There's no wobble in that. He has his own unique style. You know that for sure. And there's no wobble in that. The geniuses of the world all had a unique style. Few of them went to college. Few of those that you really call genius. Now, we're not guiding you away from college. We're just saying it isn't the only portal through which everything that he wants will flow. Don't let yourself wobble over things that, Everything's going really well. And all of you have more to learn from this one than you have to teach him. Everyone involved with him has more to learn from him than you will ever teach to him. What he's teaching is life is supposed to be fun. And this isn't, so I'm not going to do it.
Yes, that's pretty much it. That's right.
But even in that freedom seeking, he can start to wobble. And there are so many disciplinarians and teachers who feel that their job is to convey their perspective to you. And that's really what he is resisting. He knows his perspective is healthier than that of his teachers. Isn't that interesting? He still likes life. His perspective is different than that of his teachers. He still feels free enough to not do what they say. That's just a beautiful thing.
And so in my appreciation for that, then we can at home, he will learn how to do math. He's already learning it, and I'm just showing him a little bit.
But you see, we're not giving you the means to an end. We're giving you the means.
Okay.
Because if you realize, we're not teaching you how to get him to do math. We're trying to get you to be wobble-free when he doesn't.
Okay.
That's much more important here. That you don't wobble over what he does or doesn't do.
Okay.
That you love him unconditionally. That you appreciate him unconditionally. That you see his genius unconditionally. That his genius isn't conditional upon the punctuation.
And the learning of math and
math.
the question mark and the capital.
And once you've got that in place, then you can inspire all the other stuff. He'll be happier learning it. He'll be happier jumping through the hoops. He'll be more easily hired. He'll be a better employee. It's good grammar is a value. Punctuation helps too. In other words, if you've got something to say and you want to say it in a way that it will be, but it's really an interesting thing. When you have something to say and it's translated into 50 different languages, punctuation becomes irrelevant.
Right.
Because those languages, did you know some of them write backwards? Did you know some of them don't even use letters that you would recognize?
Right.
Esther looks at some of the books and she can't even tell what book it is. She can count the chapters. That's usually the only way she can figure out which book this is, because nothing about the book is recognizable to her. So who knows what it even says? Or if the punctuation is appropriate.
Yeah.
But there is a vibrational message, you see. So a lot about nothing is going on in education. The educational system is so much more about social interaction and dynamics than anything else. It has the potential of making or breaking a student in this very powerful top priority regard. It can inspire them to like themselves more, or it can inspire them to like themselves less. And beyond that, we wouldn't think too much about it. So if a teacher has decided that you are inappropriate and can convince you that you are, then the educational system has failed you. If a teacher has decided that you're wonderful and can convince you that you are, then the educational system has succeeded mightily. And beyond that, nothing matters. That's our story about, and we're sticking to it, about education. Because there's so much to be learned. And if you really want to know where your children are going to get their knowledge, it's not in the classroom, it's Google.
You're so right.
Any question that Esther can even think of, Luke, who's 8, can give her the answer in 30 seconds or less. Anything that she wants to know. So why would you use your brain as a storage cabinet when Google can bring it to you when you need it, whenever you need it? So what does matter? Google matters. What does matter is your happy heart, your belief in yourself, a life that inspires you to want to know. So your educational system is in the middle of big question asking. And don't worry, the answers will come. But don't let them, in their upheaval and in their evolution, confuse you about the perfection of your son. That's all we're saying.